Gardens of the Moon is a fantasy book, a fantasy series, the longest that I've ever started to read. And I wanna review it because I wanna make a mission to review fantasy science fiction books on this channel more. And I wanna start with Gardens of the Moon, which I finished yesterday. So feelings are still fresh and I wanna talk about them, and they are mostly positive. There are a few negatives, but mostly positive. Gardens of the Moon is the first in a series, Malazan, the Book of the Fallen. It has around 10 books, I think, and this is the introduction. It is a book about Malazan Empire and its conquered and soon to be conquered lands. So we get to see a lot of perspectives, a lot of characters who are on the opposite sides of this war and who are both in the Malazan army and in Darujistan, which is another city that the Malazan Empire is trying to conquer. So this is a book that has like 700 pages, and throughout it all, we are thrown into the world in medias res, not knowing anything. The world building is very learn it yourself type of approach. There's so much information that's being withheld from us, the readers, and we just have to understand and research, explore everything on our own, which I love. I love the mystery of the book where, of course it's a mystery because we're not told anything. We can just observe the characters and get to our own conclusions about what's going on. One of the major themes in this book is trust. So as I said, trust is a major theme in this book because there's a lot of backstabbing, there's a lot of trying to find people to trust because the characters we're following are in the army, they're street thieves, they're mages, and they're all involved in this conflict between the Malazan Empire and other lands they want to conquer or other lands they are planning to conquer, like the city Darujistan. And we get to see people from Darujistan, we get to see people in the army that are on the side of the Empress, and then other people in the army who are loyal more to themselves or their own like squad than they are to the Empress. So there's a lot of sides, and we follow all of them sides. We follow all of these characters, and they are very interesting. So as I said, I loved the mystery of the story. I loved how the world building was just offered to us and not info dumped. It wasn't condescendingly explained. We had to get to our own conclusions and explore the world on our own and then kind of, get to the conclusions of why someone would act a certain way. And in the end, we get some of the answers, but not all of them, because this is basically a setup story. We here meet a lot of characters, and these stories that are started in this first book will be unraveled in the next books. So, as a first book, this is a huge setup. As for the writing style, I thought it was very militaristic 70% of the time, and then 30% of the time it was kind of poetic or trying to be poetic. There's a lot of promises in this writing style. I hope it will evolve as the books go on, but as a beginning, as a first book, I think it was pretty solid. And we get to see some poems at the beginning of the chapters. Of every chapter, we have some poem and then like volume and who wrote it. So this gives off a feeling of the epicness of the plot and the world. There's this promise of so much more to see, so much more that we will get to see, hopefully, in the following books because of these poems and old writings that we get to see at the beginning of the chapters. But that's not all. I think the most epic thing, or the thing that makes this book the most epic, is the fact that gods are included in the narrative and they are ruling humans' lives. I loved that the gods are included. I loved that they are characters as well, and there's this whole lore surrounding gods as well, and some people that are half gods kind of, or have some magical abilities that are even stronger than gods. There's this whole thing around surrounding gods and a promise that it will get to be a big part of the story in the following books. So there are also some negatives and positives in the book, some random things that I want to mention. The first I'll start with the negatives, and there are just a few negatives, really not a lot of things that I didn't like. The thing that annoyed me the most was the lack of physical descriptions of people, or just really scarce physical descriptions, and I just could not imagine how people looked. The main characters, like, which appeared the most, I just did not know even the color of their skin or something. So I had to always Google the characters to find how they looked, what type of scars they had or something. So there was this one character that is like the main character almost, and I still have no idea how he looks, like what he looks like, because the only thing that we get to know of him is that he has black hair, basically. So yeah, that does not tell me a lot, and it's really hard to imagine then these characters being in a physical space, because I think the space was really described okayly, I don't know. It was described well. I could imagine the hills and the grass and all of that stuff, but the characters themselves were just blanks for me. So I really hope to see more detailed descriptions of of people in the following books. Second negative was the last 50 pages of the book, which was basically one prolonged action scene, which was both boring and rushed at the same time. I can't explain that, but yeah, these 50 pages didn't really influence my enjoyment of the book, but it really felt like the author really just wanted to get this over with, connect these dots at the end of the book, and then leave others open, and that's it. So now going into the positives, it's the role of women. I thought it was really handled well. I didn't really feel there was this intense male gaze when women were included. We have female soldiers. We have this great, my favorite character, Tattersail. She's a magician. I love her, and honestly, I'm pleased with the women that we have here. But the ratio of men to women is could be better. So there could be more women included, but otherwise I thought it was really well done. There's also, as you may have heard, this amazing magical system. So we have these warrens, which are basically doorways to different magical abilities, and there's this tunnels that lead to warrens, which are the tunnels of chaos, and it's really hard, therefore, to get to certain warrens to gain the magical abilities. So it's not easy to have magic. It's not easy to walk these warrens because anything can happen to you. You're basically like meditating, and then your soul is leaving your body to get to these warrens. And as I already said, there's gods in this fantasy world as well, so gods can ruin your plans and they can trap your soul, stuff like that. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating. I really hope to see more of these magical systems and worlds explained in the following books. And as I already said, gods play the role in humans' lives, something like Greek gods in the Iliad, and but the difference is that here gods don't have the biggest power. Gods are actually kind of slaves to humans. And so we see a lot of races, a lot of ancient races that have this immense power that is greater than any god can have. Gardens of the Moon was a really enjoyable read, and I hope to see the world that was set up in this book expanding more and more as we get to the following books, and I hope to see more answers and then more and more questions being posed. And yes, I am obsessed with the series, and as soon as I buy the book 2, I will start to read it because I can't help myself. I really cannot get into any other fantasy book right now, or a series, because I need to know what happens in this one. This is how much it wounds me in a good way, though, in a good way. So do I recommend it? Hell yes. If you need something intelligent and something that's harder, more complex, like something where you have to get to your own conclusions in a book, something that gives you a very active role in reading, I think Gardens of the Moon is a great start. So I definitely recommend this book. Thanks for sticking with the review, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye.